Right, welcome everyone. Hope everyone's okay. So here we go. It's going to run through the ingredients, right? Just so we know you've got everything first. So we need some oil, olive oil, vegetable oil is fine. You need some pork fillet or chicken breast. All right, we've got some pork fillet here, or chicken breast. You need some garlic, all right, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. We need some onions. And we need some cashews, all right? So I've got some cashews there as well. Right, for the sauce, we're actually going to let's do the sauce first. So in Chinese cookery, it's all about preparation, right? It's a thing called mise en place, which is actually French, but it is all about preparation. There's someone in the next room who needs to turn their sound down because I can hear myself in the next room because someone's watching it in the next room. So that person can turn the sound down, that'd be great because I can hear myself, which is really off-putting, but that's fine. Okay, so let's just go through the sauce. And we do the sauce first because you need to do that kind of first, all right? Because once we start cooking this is going to take within 5 minutes. So in the sauce goes some dark soy sauce. Okay, like thus. Dark soy sauce in Chinese cookery is literally used just for the colour. Alright, it's not for flavour. Light soy sauce is used for flavour. It's used as an alternative for salt. But dark soy sauce is for the flavour. Then we've got some rice wine vinegar. If you don't have vinegar, you can use regular vinegar, malt vinegar. That's absolutely fine. We've then got some Chinese rice wine, right? This is called mirin, see there. Or some sherry or some regular wine, or just leave it out completely, okay? So that's that. Then we've got some chili sauce. Now this stuff is ultra hot, but really nice, all right? It's very hot, very spicy. Looks like this, all right? So there's chilies in kind of oil, like a thick oil. Show you that in a second. We got some liquid chicken stock. It's one of these, like a jelly one. You can use the stock cube as well, like a regular square stock cube is fine as well. We need some caster sugar, which I'll have to find, but that's fine, and because I haven't got that out yet. And some cornflour mixed in water. All right, so we do that in a second as well. All right, so we're gonna do the sauce first. All right, just because literally the sauce gets mixed in a bowl and then it gets put into the mixture once you're frying it. All right, so it must be made first. So make sure you wash your hands. All right, so 20 seconds, because it's too important you wash your hands. I've washed my hands. Any questions, just stick them on the comment and I can answer as we go. So all you're gonna do, I'll probably start with the corn flour. You want 2 teaspoons of corn flour. Right, corn flour is this white powder that will thicken the sauce. That's its purpose. All right, so 1 teaspoon. I've just got a little bowl. So literally all the sauce ingredients are going to go into a bowl. All right, so 1 teaspoon and 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to put this over here so it's out of the way. And what we're going to do is we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of water to this and then mix it, and it will go like a sort of a paste. All right, so I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of water in, just cold water. Okay, you see it looks like that. But you need to give it a little mix with a spoon. Mixing. Right, we're then literally going to put everything else in. So we've got 1 tablespoon of dark soy. If for some reason you haven't got, light soy is fine. If you haven't got a tablespoon and you've only got a teaspoon, there are 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon. All right, so you can literally just do, like, I've only got a teaspoon just because I have, all right? So I'm going to do, we want 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, which is 3 teaspoons, so 1, 2, 3. So that's the soy sauce. I'll go through this again in a second. You want 1 tablespoon of the rice vinegar. All right, rice vinegar. So because I've only got a teaspoon, just remember I'm going to do 3 of these, so 1 teaspoon equals 1 tablespoon. So we've got 1, 2 and 3. I'll move all that out of the way in a sec. Then we've got some of the wine. So this is mirin, which is a rice wine. You could use, like I say, sherry. You could use wine, or you could actually leave it out. All right, which is one of those things. And you want one. It's pretty simple. It's more or less a tablespoon of nearly everything. So 1 tablespoon of the wine. 1, 2, 3. Remember, I've got a teaspoon if you've just joined, so I'm doing 3. Just going to move these out of the way. Okay, we then want, now this is where this is different, 1 teaspoon of the chilli, because this will knock your socks off, all right? This is ultra hot. If I just give it a stir, what happens to this is that there's an oil and there's chilies. Let me just try not to get any on the floor. So you see, it's like chilies. We got 1, so just 1 teaspoon, an actual teaspoon of that, not a tablespoon, a teaspoon. That would be too hot. So I'll run through this in a sec. And 1 of the jelly chicken stock cubes. If you've only got like a square one, you know, like a regular one, that's fine. Just unwrap it and crumble it in. Right, give that a mix. Let's get rid of that. Right, so that is everything. Actually, I need some caster sugar, so I'll find some caster sugar in a second. As you can tell, it's not my kitchen. So I've got to find some sugar. I found some sugar. 1 teaspoon of sugar. That's all you need. I'll run through this in 1 second. 1 teaspoon of sugar. Boom, that goes like that. So just to recap then, in the sauce we have, just to remind myself as well, 1 tablespoon of dark soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of the vinegar, 1 tablespoon of the sherry or the rice wine or the wine, 1 tablespoon of the chicken stock, which is basically just one, you know, essentially 1 of the cubes. Then we've got the teaspoons. Teaspoon of the cut sugar, teaspoon of the chili bean sauce, and 2 teaspoons of cornflour mixed with 2 tablespoons of water. Doesn't look overly appetizing at the minute, but it will do when it goes into the sauce. Okay, is everyone all right with that? Any problems? Give me a shout if there is. Great. So let's leave that to the side just for 1 second. We're now going to do some preparation, all right, which is really important. I've got some pork fillet. If I open the packet, I'll show you what this looks like. So every animal has a fillet, and the fillet, just so you know, sits Zara. So this is a Sichuan pork or chicken with broccoli and cashew nuts. It's a stir fry, okay? So every animal has a fillet. It's literally in like behind your spine, and because that's part of the animal is used least, therefore it's the most tender. So like beef fillet, etc., etc. This is a pork fillet. As you can see here, there's a little bit of white. If I just show that to the camera, a little bit of white. That can be a little bit tough when you cook it. So I need to remove this. If you're using chicken, obviously you won't need to do this part, all right? You can just slice it up. So all I'm gonna do with this is to slice it up, and you want it in strips, and I'm gonna have to cook this first. Okay, so let me just get rid of that. Is everyone okay? Any problems? Just write in the comments if there's any issue. Okay, so let's just get rid of that. Okay, all I'm going to do then, so I've got most of it off, and that's kind of fine. I'm just going to cut this pork fillet into nice little rounds. So if you've got a chicken breast, exactly the same. Do slices, do thick slices, and then what's going to happen is we're going to cut them again into strips. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to fry the meat off first, then we're going to do the veg, and then we put it all together, all right? So once we have to start cooking, this is not going to take very long at all. Just remember, if you're cutting chicken or cutting any kind of meat, because it's obviously a natural product, and without being too gory about it, it was alive at some point, and you need to be aware of that. So therefore, it will have, you might be a little bit of blood in there, bits of sinew, etc. Just chop them out, all right? It's no kind of big deal particularly. So just do that. All you're going to do now, because stir fry is a very quick method of cooking, that is just too big, and that's going to take too long on stir fry to cook. It's just too fat, it's too thick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut these into strips. All right, now what you've done is you've made the surface area kind of less, so therefore it's going to cook a bit quicker. Alright, so we've got that. So let me just chop that. Just as the by the way, I will later edit the video, and this will also go on YouTube in an edited version, obviously without me peering at the camera, etc. Right, so I sliced all that. Okay, so what I want to do is, I'm going to put that on the, well actually leave it on the board for a second. Right, I'm going to wash my hands, and that is really important if you're dealing with meat. Okay, so what we're now going to do then is we're actually going to cook the pork first, but with nothing else kind of in it. So if you've got pork or chicken, you need to cook it first. Now we don't cook it all the way through, but probably half of the way, halfway. So this is the way this works. I have a wok, or kind of like what's called a chef's pan. If I do it over here, just because the ring's a little bit bigger, I try and pull the camera a bit nearer as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some oil in, exactly the same. If you've got chicken, this is what you need to do. So a bit of oil. I'm going to turn the heat on. Okay, now what we're going to do is let's move this a little bit as near as I can with the cable I've got. Right, when we fry stuff, obviously we have heat and we have oil, so you need to make sure you are ultra careful with this. Make sure that, please don't be doing this on your own. Make sure there's a parent somewhere nearby, so you're not burning the house down. When you're frying meat, and the chicken, whatever you're doing, when it goes in, it needs to sizzle. If it doesn't, like that one, I just put it in, take it out, alright? It does need to sizzle. That's really important to get that nice kind of crust on whatever meat you're cooking. So I'm using gas, alright, we've got electric, so about a tablespoon of oil, a splash, usually common sense. And then we're going to cook this first. Then we're going to take it out, then we're going to do the veg, and then we do the veg, put the meat back in, put the sauce in, and then boom, we're done. Dead simple. So just let that go. If you're ever into a Chinese restaurant, or actually go to China or some Japan or somewhere like that in Asia, they would do this a lot, but the heat would be massively high, right? Massive big gas jets, and they would literally cook this in about, they could cook that meat in about a minute because of such the massive temperatures that they use. But that's fine. Right, so you hear that noise? You want that sizzle. When you put meat in or anything similar, always do it away from you. So notice I've got my board. Okay. So I'm a bit noisy. I'm going to fry that, not until it's halfway cooked. Okay. No problem, Sola. That's fine. So once I've cooked this, or once I've half cooked the meat, I just go through again what's in the sauce. When you're frying meat, you want to avoid poking at it too much, alright? Because what people do when they're frying meat is they start prodding at it, and what happens is that lowers the temperature. Okay, and you don't want to lower it. You want it to fry, you don't want it to boil, alright? So if you start poking around with it, it will start to stew in its own juice, and you don't want that, you want it to fry. Alright, so let's just leave that for 1 second. I'm going to get a plate out. How is everyone, alright? Okay. So obviously on the video, later YouTube video, this bit will be edited out, alright? So, all the ingredients were put on Instagram, on my story, and also on a few things back, also on the Eventbrite page as well, and when I upload this later to YouTube, it'll be on there as well. Okay. So as you can see, half of it, so I haven't turned it over, we'll do in a second. See there, it's all nice, it's brown on one side. What I now can do is I will just turn over some of the bits. What you need to remember is we're only going to half cook this, 3/4 of this. We're going to cook it all the way through because if I cook it all the way through and then cook it again later, then add the sauce, it's going to be overcooked and be chewy. Alright, so we're going to half cook it, 3/4 cook it, and then finish it off later. Okay? Sorry about that. As that's frying, just for Tola's benefit really. So I've made the little sauce we're going to put in later. You'll see that without me tipping it all over the floor. So in here, I notice there's the tablespoons and the teaspoons. If I do the tablespoons first, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, or just regular vinegar works, 1 tablespoon of rice wine or sherry or a splash of wine, or leave it out. 1 tablespoon of liquid chicken stock, which is literally like a stock cube or a stock jelly, is fine. Now teaspoons, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of chili bean paste, and 2 teaspoons of cornflour with 2 tablespoons of water. Alright, so some water there as well, okay? So it looks like that, a little bit unappealing, but what happens, it will turn out to be a nice rich sauce when it all's all put together. Right. So we're nearly there with the meat. I just want that liquid to fry off a little bit. And then just remember, make sure you've got everything ready in a second. So we're going to do the onions in a sec. We're going to do the garlic, and I'll show you to do that in a minute. We've got the cashew nuts. And we have the broccoli, okay, which is goes in raw and it just gets cooked in the sauce, right? It hasn't got to be pre-cooked. Okay, about 1 more minute. So again, just remind you, you want to half cook this. It is difficult to know when meat's cooked, to be honest, unless you cut it in half. So this has been in there, what, for 2-3 minutes, obviously a bit hot. You can partly tell by the texture, so give it a squeeze. If it's too spongy, it's probably not cooked. The other way, of course, of doing it is to cut it in half. Now, you probably can't see from camera, there's a tiny, tiny bit of pink in there, so it needs a little bit longer, but not much longer. There's a bit of liquid in there, so I'm just going to fry that until that dries, and then what will then happen is it will start to fry, actually start to colour the meat. While that's happening, and this is what you can do as well if you're actually doing this live, is to go and wash your balls and wash the hands, alright? Because there's raw meat on, so unless you're able to take it away and have a second board, you need to wash this one. That's what I want to do while that's happening, okay? Okay, so we'll wash that. Right, in my instance, meat's done. I'm going to take it out and leave it on a plate. Right, we're going to use that probably the next 5 minutes. Leave it to the side. What I would do if you're doing this actually with me is get some kitchen roll or something similar and just wipe out the excess oil. If you've got time, you give it a wash, but just use a tissue and just wipe out the excess oil from there. Right, so let's get all the vegetables prepared now. I'm just going to slightly wiggle the camera so we're more at that angle. Okay, there we go. Onions, just a reminder how to do this. So this is the top of the onion, that's the bottom of the onion. Do not touch that at all. Okay, I'm just going to take, I know it's a little bit of a weird angle on doing this, but take the top off. Gentle sawing motion, take the top off. Now you've got a flat bottom, stick that on the board, cut all the way through the middle. Notice I'm doing what's called a bridge hold. So you get your hands like a bridge, put it over the top, so because you stabilise the onion, and I'm going to cut all the way through. Then you just peel the onion. So just grab the skin. I'll have a little clear up in a minute. And let's do the other one. So, top, bottom, leave the bottom, take the top off. Remember, gentle sawing motion, never kind of push with a knife because that's probably going to end badly. Bridge hold, cut right through the root, peel. What you can do if you're a bit lazy, sometimes the actual outer skin can be a bit difficult to get off, but obviously it's in layers. So what you can do, I mean, you lose a layer of onion, I guess, but it is a bit quicker. Right, so let me just clear up, and it's important also that you clear up as you go. All right, when I'm teaching students, sometimes they're working in mess, and that's never a good thing. Just gonna put this in the bin over here. Get rid of that. Alrighty, all we're now going to do is just slice these into half moons. Okay, so literally like this, and then just slice down. Now notice the way I'm doing that. So I'm using then what's called the claw grip. So your hands are like this. I'm hanging onto it, keep tucking my fingers under, and I'm slicing it down. Okay, so 2 red onions. So let's get rid of all the root, get rid of the root. Right, garlic. So then we need some garlic. Not much garlic, actually, just 1 garlic clove. This is called a bulb. We just need a clove. These sometimes can be a pain to get out, you know, to kind of get them out. You can either kind of put your fingers in and kind of rip it out. The other way of doing it is put it on the sides. I mean, I'm obviously probably heavier than you, but lean on it. And what happens is that will break it, and then it is just a little bit easier just to get out a clove. So the whole thing's a bulb. One of the little segments is a clove. So there we go. You can use one of those like that. Just get rid of that. Now the way to do this actually is very similar to an onion in many ways. So it's got 2 ends, one end, that end. And actually, unlike the onion, you can cut both ends off. So take one end, take the second end off, and carefully you want to peel the paper off. It does depend on the garlic. Sometimes it comes off really easy, sometimes it's a pain and you've got to use a small knife to kind of wheedle it off. Right, one garlic clove. And all we're going to do with the garlic clove, and let's get rid of that, is we're just going to slice it nice and thin. Take your time, keep your hands out of the way. Alright, so onion, garlic. Then we have our broccoli, so you should have your cashews already. I've got my sauce already. This is called Tenderstem broccoli, so the stem like this. Excuse me. You do need to take off just a tiny bit at the end, alright? So not all the way up here, just a tiny bit up here. So what I'm going to do is move those off. Because this is quite thin, this will cook really quick. You can use regular broccoli, whoops. You know, like the tree type. But all you would need to do there is to make them, you know, sort of do small florets as they're called. Right, let's try and make these all the same. Size, that's the wrong way around. So let's get everything ready. Ignore that as I drop that on the floor. Get rid of my knife right. Okay, so we're now actually ready to cook the whole stir fry now. Alright, so as you see, if I pull this round, we then have got, so the protein, or the pork in my instance, could be chicken for you, could do chunks of fish, are cooked, or half cooked at least. I've got the cashews ready, the onion ready, the garlic and the broccoli, and the sauce ready. From now to when it's done, it's about 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to move the camera a little bit so you're a little bit more focused on. I'm just going to unplug this for 1 second because actually it's plugged in. There we go. So what we're going to do is this: turn the heat on, tablespoon of oil, use a splash, common, kind of common sense. And what we're going to start with is the onion and the garlic. All right, there is an order to this. Okay, so onion and garlic first. And to be fair, I probably should have waited till it's warmed up, but that will heat up pretty quick because it's a gas top. We hear that frying now. So alright, so literally we just want, where possible and when you're happy with this, you need to have this on the highest heat you can. So whether you're gas or electric, you want this. I'll take this off 1 second and you see. You probably can't see with the light, but this is full flame, right? It's full pelt, and it'll be the same with electric as well. And that actually is important, all right? Because if you don't have it at high heat, you'll be stewing it rather than stir frying it, all right? And the two things are very different. So hopefully you can see. Right, so you can hear the stir fry, or hear the onions at least, frying. So we're going to give that 1 minute. Fry. Remember, don't be scared of this if you think, oh God, it's too hot. You're in control, take it off, turn it down, one of the two. So this is, as you probably saw in the recipe, a Sichuan stir fry. So Sichuan is an area of China. China is a massive country, and if you have Chinese at home, that tends to be Sichuan style cooking. All right, so it tends to be quite sweet and sour, quite rich sauces. If you go to other parts of China, they wouldn't have anything like this at all. It'd be either very, very vegetarian, or it will be, using fish primarily, or etc., or extremely spicy. All right, so this is very mild, which there is a little bit of kick with the chili, but not that much. So Sichuan is standard Chinese food, if you like, that we would expect to get in the UK. All right, but it's only a very small part of Chinese cookery as a whole. Right, so I'll hold this up in 1 second. What we're looking for is these to be a little bit softened. I want this to get as hot as I can, or the pan to get as hot as I can. Right, you can see that. So we've got a little bit brown there, softened. What we're now going to do then is add in, not quite everything else, but more or less everything else, right? So we can put in the broccoli, bung it in. You can put the pork in, because remember this is only a half, 3/4 cooked, so that's fine. But there will be juice that comes out of it naturally, that's fine. then put the cashews in. And we're going to stir fry that on the highest heat for about a minute. Minute and a half. Do turn it over. Whoops. Do turn it over because you want the heat to get on the bottom so it's cooking things. Right, I'm going to leave that for 1 minute. Any questions, or is everyone okay at the moment? Okay, cool. Well, that's cooking. It's going to get rid of my chopping board. Right, I say this now so probably you'll forget. This heats up really well, alright, so when you make it like now it's 11:30, bit early for lunch, bit early for dinner, is that if you keep it, you need it to cool down and put it in the fridge, because there's meat, that's really important, right, put it in the fridge, but then you can reheat it in the microwave, that works really well. Put some in a bowl, cook some noodles or some rice separately and heat it in a bowl, works really well. Freezers as well, in fact, you can freeze this if you wanted to. Right, what we're now going to do, this has been, don't forget our sauce. We're going to put this in. You do need to give it a little mix because what happens is the corn flour often sinks to the bottom. Alright, let's give that a little mix first and we funnel that in. Okay, there should be a little bit of sauce in the bottom here. What you need to, at this point, okay, I'm going to add a little bit more water just because I think there's quite enough water. Remember, we're cooking, you're in control, alright? So if it's too hot, you turn it down. Not hot enough, you turn it up. If it's burning, you take it off. If you think things are a bit dry, you add a bit of liquid to them. Alright, so always be in control. I'm just going to let this simmer for about 1 minute, just so we make sure that the meat's cooked, that the vegetables are cooked. Just by the way, the broccoli is meant to be still crunchy. Alright, that is the point. If you want it done more, you just cook it more. Okay, to heat off, and there we go. So Sichuan, pork, broccoli, and spring onions. I will put some on a plate later and make it look all Instagram worthy. I will upload this later to YouTube, alright, and do some editing as well. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, we got vegetable curry and homemade chapatis on Friday, again at 11. And the following Monday, I think it is like a spicy chicken dish, again with a flatbread and a nice sort of tomato, yogurt, mince, cucumber salsa that goes on the top as well. But I'll put more details on Instagram for that as well. Hope you enjoyed that. See you all soon and take care. See you later.